Okay, now we have this out of my paint booth, and I'm basically going to prepare the surface. You get some overspray from painting by going around the edge. So I'm going to use some sandpaper, and we're going to remove the overspray. It's a 1500 sand grit, and I'm just going to lightly go over the surface to take off any loose paint, from spraying. I'm going to go over and make sure that I don't feel any specks of dirt that I might have missed sanding from the primer, and just making sure that the surface is nice and clean so that the decal has a nice, perfectly smooth surface. I'm pretty particular, so I'm just going over this thing with a fine-tooth comb. After I sand this down, I'm going to want to use a glass cleaner to get the dust off from the overspray and the sanding. So I'm just using a generic glass cleaner, and I'm going to wipe down the surface, getting all the dust off, first with a wet rag and then a dry rag. Now normally I mentioned using alcohol to prepare a surface, but for something that's freshly painted or primed, it's unnecessary because there really isn't any contaminants. You can see there all the blue that is loose on the surface, so you wouldn't want that obviously on there, because then that's not allowing the decal to stick to a nice solid clean surface. Okay, these are the prints before I put it on. You can see the gloss level. I'm actually using the matte like I mentioned before. You could see it's a nice, if it was glossy, in my opinion, it wouldn't look as rich. So this is what I wanted to go with. I got the colors to be right on the money. There's a couple more sets over there. There's some marquees printed, another set of Miss Pacman, my N64 labels, just some various things that we're printing, at the time. Okay, we're prepared to put the vinyl on. Tools needed: nice sharp X-Acto blade. Gonna need yourself a squeegee. Now I put Velcro on the edge so it's nice and soft, won't scratch up my nice graphics. You're gonna need yourself a tape measure, and you're gonna also want to have an environment, not so much have animals around it, but you gotta have to have it dry and clean, well lit, no wind rain. Okay, now we're ready to start to try to line up the panel, and basically I'm going to go around, and I have it overlap, so I'm feeling around right now to get the same amount to hang over on both sides. You see that clamp on the bottom corner? That's kind of holding it in place, so every time I move it I'm not struggling with it, keep moving around. So I believe I have like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch overlap. Now I'm just checking around the edge to see that that's not going to be a problem. Once it's all in place and I know that it's in the position I want, I'm going to use the second clamp, and that's going to secure it completely in place. These are just your normal clamps, but it really is helpful to keep it in place, because when you have something overhanging, you can't really tape it down the correct way. So the clamps work out really well. Now we're just doing it, we only put on a portion at a time. We don't do the whole thing. So that's where a lot of people get nervous about, man, how am I going to put this big graphic on? Plus the fact that it has bubble-free technology definitely helps. Okay, so we're going to start peeling back one section, and we're going to take it back only so far, and then we're going to tear. Well, actually, we're going to cut. We're going to slice this area off. Now, you don't want to tear it, because then you leave a little bit of a jagged edge and a film behind. So just try to cut that decently straight. Don't have to be perfect. Get it out of its way, and you proceed to apply it. Now we use the felt edge on the squeegee, and just don't let it touch down until you're actually squeegeeing it. It can be a little bit flip-flopping around, but you just hold it in position. That's why it's important for you to not be in an environment that's got wind, because wind could catch this thing. You don't want to do this outside, believe me. Just work it little by little. Now there are times where I could just put it down if I keep it taut and push it down and then squeegee it that way. So once we get it secure, then we're going to move on to the next section. So see, we only have about a foot maybe that we've worked on. Now we can move all the tools. We're going to unclamp these. And proceed to squeegee. Alright, now we're back with my brand new X-Acto blade. I'm going to trim this. Basically, we're just going to let the blade do the work. Follow the edge. Just get it started at one spot. I'm going to slightly tilt it inwards towards the inside of the panel and just follow it nice. Now, this is why it's important for you to have a nice straight edge from your bodywork. You know, if you have that edge all chewed up, it's never ever going to look right. So you do need to take that step. And I keep a little bit of pressure on my left arm, you see, tugging back on it and just following the blade. You know, the most important thing, like I said, sharp blade and a nice edge to follow. And we're going to go around and basically do this around the whole entire perimeter until we get it trimmed off. Now you don't want it to hang over, because when you put the T-molding on, it's going to crunch up the vinyl on the edge. So that's why it's imperative to get that to be flush. This is the Miss Pacman. So the one that I showed you me applying was this other one next to it. And this is the original shape. So I'm going to give you a close-up look of how it's applied. And you can see this has a satin, basically it's matte finish. It's really smooth. The color match is really good with the paint. So that's the front. Next is going to be the marquee. Well, the marquee's up here. The bezel and the CPU control panel overlay. That's going to be the next steps on these. Hey guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's a little drug out, but I wanted to show you the process of the application, because some people may not be comfortable with trying to apply that. So if you were to purchase one of these from me, at least you have a good idea of how to go about installing that. On the next video, we're actually going to go through doing the bezel, and we're going to cover that in detail. So that will be the next step. So thanks again so much for watching. Please stay tuned. I hope you're enjoying this series. Like, share, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.